the shocking betrayal, the text that shattered everything. The champagne glass slipped from Olivia's fingers, shattering across the marble floor of her penthouse bathroom. Her phone screen glowed with a message that made her wedding dress, the one hanging pristine in her closet for tomorrow's ceremony, feel like a noose around her throat. The text wasn't meant for her. It was meant for him, for Marcus. Her fiancé, the man she'd loved for 5 years. The message read, "Can't wait to be Mrs. Whitmore. Thanks for keeping the real wedding a secret. See you in Paris next week, my love. Sophia." Olivia's hands trembled as she scrolled up, finding dozens of messages between Marcus and Sophia Chen, her best friend since college, her maid of honor, the woman who'd helped her pick out this very dress. The messages painted a picture so vivid, so cruel, it felt like being stabbed repeatedly. They'd been together for 2 years. 2 entire years. While Olivia planned the wedding Marcus pretended to want, he was planning a real future with Sophia. The perfect facade. 6 hours earlier, Olivia had been the happiest woman alive. The rehearsal dinner had been flawless. 200 guests at the Grand Meridian Ballroom. Crystal chandeliers casting golden light over tables laden with imported roses. Marcus had given a speech that made everyone cry, talking about how Olivia was his soulmate, his everything, the woman who saved him from himself. Sophia had hugged her afterward, whispering, "You're so lucky, Liv. He's perfect." Perfect. The word tasted like poison now. Olivia sank onto the cold bathroom tiles, her breathing shallow. She'd given up everything for Marcus. When his tech startup needed capital 3 years ago, she'd liquidated her trust fund, $2.3 million, to save his company. When his mother got sick, Olivia postponed her dream job in London to care for her. She'd restructured her entire life around being Mrs. Marcus Whitmore, and now she understood why he'd been so eager to set the wedding date. Not because he loved her, because he needed her money locked in before he disappeared with Sophia. The discovery that changed everything. Her phone buzzed again. Another text, this time in a group chat she didn't recognize. Someone had accidentally added her instead of another contact. The messages were from Marcus's business partner, Derek M. "The Panama accounts are ready. Once the marriage is official and you have access to her inheritance, we move everything offshore. She'll never see it coming. Genius plan, brother." Olivia's grief transformed into something sharper. Rage. Ice cold, calculating rage. She stood, wiping her tears, and looked at herself in the mirror. Her reflection stared back, no longer the naive woman who'd believed in fairy tales. Tomorrow was supposed to be her wedding day, and it still would be, just not the wedding anyone expected. The midnight decision. Olivia spent the next 4 hours in her home office, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She was a corporate lawyer, after all, one of the best in New York before she'd scaled back her practice for Marcus. She knew exactly how to protect herself. By 3 a.m., she'd transferred her remaining assets into an offshore trust even Derek couldn't trace, documented every text message, and hired a forensic accountant to audit Marcus's company. But that wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. She pulled up Sophia's social media, studying every photo, every caption. Sophia, who'd cried on Olivia's shoulder about her toxic ex. Sophia, who'd borrowed $50,000 from Olivia last year for her mother's surgery, money that was never repaid. Sophia, who'd been sleeping with Marcus in the apartment Olivia had co-signed for. Olivia's phone rang. It was her mother calling from the hotel. "Darling, I can't sleep. Too excited for tomorrow. You're going to be the most beautiful bride." "I know, Mom," Olivia said, her voice steady despite the hurricane inside her. "Tomorrow's going to be unforgettable. The morning of the wedding." The day dawned bright and merciless. Olivia moved through her preparations like an actress in a play only she understood. Hair styled in elegant waves. Makeup flawless, hiding the sleepless night. The dress, $15,000 of silk and lace, fit perfectly, though it felt like armor now rather than a symbol of love. Sophia arrived at 10 a.m., arms full of flowers, her smile wide and false. "Oh my God, Liv, you look like a princess. Marcus is going to die when he sees you." "I hope so," Olivia said, and Sophia laughed, not hearing the venom underneath. In her clutch purse, Olivia carried 3 things: her vows, a USB drive containing every piece of evidence, and a single envelope addressed to Marcus. The ceremony begins. The church was packed, 400 guests, all dressed in their finest, waiting to witness true love. Marcus stood at the altar in his Tom Ford tuxedo, looking nervous but handsome. When Olivia appeared at the back of the church, his face lit up. Whether with love or greed, she could no longer tell. She walked down the aisle alone, having insisted on it weeks ago. Each step felt like walking toward either her destruction or her resurrection. The music swelled. Guests whispered about how radiant she looked. Marcus's eyes were locked on her, and she could see it now. The calculation behind his smile, the way he was already spending her inheritance in his mind. The priest began the ceremony. They'd reached the vows, Olivia's chance to speak, when she did something no one expected. She turned away from Marcus and faced the congregation. The truth unveiled. "Before I say my vows," Olivia began, her voice clear and strong, "I need to share something. Because marriage is built on honesty, and there's been a terrible dishonesty in this room." Marcus's face went white. "Liv, what are you?" "I received a text last night," she continued, pulling out her phone. "Actually, several texts. Would you like me to read them, Marcus? Or should I start with the Panama bank accounts?" The church erupted in confused murmurs. Sophia stood frozen in her bridesmaid dress, her bouquet trembling in her hands. "Or perhaps," Olivia said, her eyes finding Sophia, "we should discuss the real Mrs. Whitmore, the one he's been planning to marry in Paris next week?" The moment of reckoning. Marcus lunged toward her, his mask finally slipping. "Olivia, stop. You don't understand. I understand perfectly." She held up the USB drive. "I have everything. Every message. Every financial transfer. Every lie." She looked at the priest. "I'm sorry for wasting your time, Father. This wedding is canceled." She turned to leave, but Marcus grabbed her wrist, his grip painful. "You can't do this. You'll ruin everything." Olivia looked at him with eyes that no longer held even a trace of love. "I know. That's exactly the point." As she pulled away and walked back down the aisle, her phone buzzed with a message from a number she'd called the night before. Her lips curved into the first genuine smile she'd worn in 24 hours. Because revenge, she'd learned, was a dish best served in a wedding dress, and she was just getting started. Heartbreak, and revenge. The aftermath. The video went viral in 48 hours. Someone had filmed the entire church confrontation, and by Monday morning, wedding revenge was trending worldwide. Olivia's phone exploded with calls, reporters, lawyers, old friends emerging from the woodwork. She ignored them all except one. Detective Sarah Chen, no relation to Sophia, who specialized in financial fraud. "Miss Rivera," Detective Chen said over coffee at a discreet cafe in Brooklyn, "what you've given us is substantial. Wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit financial crimes. Mr. Whitmore and his associates are looking at serious prison time." But prison wasn't enough for Olivia. Not anymore. The woman in the photograph. That night, Olivia sat in her penthouse surrounded by documents she'd been gathering. In the chaos after the wedding, she discovered something that changed everything. A photograph dated 6 years ago, before she'd even met Marcus. It showed him at a gala with a beautiful older woman, Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Technologies, the company that had been Marcus's biggest competitor. Olivia had seen this woman before, at her engagement party, watching from across the room, at the coffee shop near her office, pretending to read a newspaper. The pieces were clicking into place in a way that made her blood run cold. She made a call to her investigator, a former FBI agent named Raymond. "I need you to find out everything about Victoria Ashford." Everything. His response came 24 hours later, and it shattered what remained of Olivia's understanding of her own life. The deeper game. Victoria Ashford wasn't just Marcus's competitor. She was his mother's oldest friend, his first investor, and according to Raymond's findings, the woman who'd orchestrated Olivia's entire relationship with Marcus from the beginning. The tech conference where they'd randomly met, Victoria had ensured Olivia got the invitation. The coffee shop where Marcus had accidentally spilled his drink on her, Victoria owned the building. Even Sophia's friendship with Olivia traced back to Victoria. She'd paid Sophia's college tuition in exchange for becoming Olivia's friend and eventual betrayer. Olivia stared at the evidence, her hands shaking. "Why? Why me?" Raymond's voice was gentle. "Your family, Olivia. Your father's company merged with Ashford Technologies 30 years ago. There was a scandal, embezzlement charges that were never proven. Your grandfather won, took control, and Victoria's family lost everything. She's been planning this for decades. Olivia's father had died when she was 16. Her grandfather passed 2 years later, leaving her as the sole heir to a fortune built on a foundation she'd never questioned. Until now. The choice. She had a choice. She could take what she knew to the authorities, let the legal system handle Victoria, Marcus, and Sophia. She could walk away, rebuild her life somewhere far from the wreckage. Or she could do what Victoria had done, play the long game, fight fire with fire, become someone her enemies would never see coming. Olivia made her decision at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, staring at the city lights from her penthouse window. She called Raymond back. "I need you to set up a meeting with Victoria Ashford. Tell her Olivia Rivera wants to negotiate." The meeting. They met at Victoria's estate in the Hamptons, a sprawling mansion that screamed old money and older grudges. Victoria was 73, but looked 60, elegant in a cream suit, her silver hair styled perfectly. She studied Olivia with eyes that held both surprise and grudging respect. "You're smarter than I expected," Victoria said, pouring tea with steady hands. "Most women would have crumbled by now. Most women didn't grow up learning chess from a grandfather who destroyed your family," Olivia replied. "He taught me that the best revenge is making your enemy think they've won." Victoria's smile was thin. "And have I won, Olivia? You've won nothing." Olivia set down a folder. "Inside is evidence that you've been manipulating financial markets, insider trading, and fraud spanning 3 decades. Everything I need to destroy you. But I'm not going to use it. Why not? Because I want something better than your destruction. I want your empire." The proposal. Olivia laid out her plan with surgical precision. Victoria would sign over 60% of Ashford Technologies to her, not as a gift, but as payment for damages and emotional distress. Marcus would be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, but Sophia would go free in exchange for testimony against him. Victoria would remain as CEO for 5 years, teaching Olivia everything about the business, and then quietly retire. "And if I refuse?" Victoria asked. "Then I release everything. You'll die in prison, your family name will be synonymous with fraud, and every company you've built will be auctioned off to your competitors, including the one my grandfather took from you." Victoria was quiet for a long moment, studying the young woman across from her. Finally, she laughed, a real laugh, full of genuine amusement. "You have his blood, after all. Your grandfather would be proud." "My grandfather was a thief," Olivia said coldly. "But at least he didn't pretend to be anything else." The transformation. The business transfer took 3 months. In that time, Olivia discovered she had a talent for corporate warfare that surprised even herself. She was ruthless in negotiations, brilliant with strategy, and unforgiving with those who'd wronged her. The woman who'd once prioritized love and family became someone her enemies feared. Marcus went to trial in September. Olivia attended every day of the proceedings, dressed impeccably, her face impassive as evidence of his crimes unfolded. When he was sentenced to 12 years for fraud and conspiracy, she felt nothing. The man she'd loved had never existed. Sophia tried to reach out once, a tearful voicemail begging for forgiveness. Olivia deleted it without listening to the whole thing. Some betrayals were beyond redemption, but it was the night before Victoria's official retirement that Olivia received a visitor who would change everything again. The unexpected guest. His name was Daniel Reeves, and he was Victoria's grandson. The one person Victoria had kept hidden from everyone, including Olivia's investigator. He appeared at her office at 9 p.m., tall and dark-haired with his grandmother's calculating eyes. "I know what you did," he said without preamble. "I know how you backed Victoria into a corner. And I know something you don't." Olivia's hand moved to the panic button under her desk. "I have security. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to warn you." He placed a photograph on her desk. It showed a man Olivia didn't recognize standing with her father, months before his death. "Your father's accident wasn't an accident. Victoria had him killed." The room spun. "You're lying. I have proof. Emails, wire transfers, testimony from the driver who ran him off the road." Daniel's expression was unreadable. "I've been gathering evidence for 10 years, waiting for the right moment. And now that you've taken everything from my grandmother, I'm wondering if we might have common interests." The devil's bargain. Olivia stared at the photograph, her father's smile frozen in time. She'd been 8 years old when he died, told it was a tragic accident on a rainy night. If Daniel was telling the truth, if Victoria had murdered him, then everything, the revenge, the takeover, the careful reconstruction of her life, was built on a foundation of lies. "What do you want?" she asked. "The same thing you wanted, justice and revenge." He smiled, and it reminded her disturbingly of Victoria. "But I'm offering you something better than justice. I'm offering you the truth. All of it. Who really embezzled from Ashford Technologies 30 years ago. Why your grandfather really took control. And what your father discovered before Victoria had him killed. In exchange for what? Partnership. You have the company now. I have the secrets. Together, we could expose every corruption, every lie, every crime committed by both our families." He paused. "Or we could bury them all and build something new, something clean." Olivia looked at this man, this stranger who claimed to hold the key to her past, and realized with crystal clarity that she stood at another crossroads. She could keep fighting, keep digging, let the cycle of revenge consume her completely, or she could choose something different. But before she could answer, her phone rang. It was Raymond, and his voice was urgent. "Olivia, you need to see this. Now. It's about your mother." The secret her mother kept. The file Raymond sent made Olivia's blood run cold. Her mother, sweet, gentle Eleanor Rivera, had known everything. Had known about Victoria's vendetta, about the embezzlement, about the murder, and she'd kept silent for 28 years, believing that protecting Olivia was more important than justice. There was more. Eleanor had been Victoria's daughter, given up for adoption as a baby, raised by another family, never told about her birth mother until the week before she married Olivia's father. Victoria had revealed herself, tried to stop the wedding, but Eleanor had married him anyway, an act of defiance that set the entire tragedy in motion. Olivia sat in her office as dawn broke over the city. Daniel still waiting for her answer, her phone full of evidence that proved everyone she'd ever loved had lied to her. And that's when she realized the most important truth of all. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about breaking the cycle. The ultimate payback. The woman who knew too much. Olivia called her mother at 6 a.m., her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "I know everything, Mom. Victoria. Dad. All of it." The silence on the other end lasted an eternity. Then, softly, "I was going to tell you. After the wedding, I thought if you married Marcus, if you had the life I never got, then maybe all the secrets could stay buried. But I didn't marry Marcus. No. You're stronger than I ever was." Eleanor's voice broke. "I'm so sorry, baby. For everything." Olivia looked at Daniel, still waiting in her office, patient as a predator. "Mom, I need you to trust me now. Can you do that? Always. Then come to New York. Tomorrow. There's something we need to do together." The final confrontation. Olivia spent the next 24 hours orchestrating the most important meeting of her life. She called Victoria, Marcus's lawyer, Sophia, Detective Chen, and every board member of Ashford Technologies. The invitation was simple. Come to the Meridian Hotel ballroom at 7 p.m. The truth will finally be revealed. Victoria arrived first, wheeled in by a nurse. She'd had a stroke 3 days after signing over the company, leaving her partially paralyzed, but mentally sharp. When she saw Eleanor walk in behind Olivia, her face transformed into something between rage and anguish. "You brought her," Victoria whispered. "My daughter. Your daughter deserves to know why you destroyed her life," Olivia said. "We all do." The truth unveiled. What happened next would be talked about in business circles for decades. Olivia stood before the assembled crowd and told the entire story, not the sanitized version, but the ugly, complicated truth. She presented evidence of Victoria's crimes, including the murder of her father. She showed proof of Marcus and Sophia's conspiracy. But then, she did something no one expected. She presented evidence that her own grandfather had actually embezzled from Ashford Technologies, exactly as Victoria had claimed. That the corporate takeover had been illegal. That her family's fortune was built on theft and lies. "Everything Victoria did to me, my grandfather did to her first," Olivia said. "And everything I've done to Victoria has made me exactly like both of them. People who hurt others to protect their own pain." Marcus's lawyer stood. "Miss Rivera, you're confessing to crimes. I'm confessing to being human. Flawed. Broken. Just like everyone in this room." She looked at Victoria. "You lost your family's company and spent 50 years trying to get revenge. It destroyed you, and it nearly destroyed me. But I'm making a different choice. The impossible decision." Olivia announced her plan. She would return Ashford Technologies to Victoria's family, specifically to Daniel, Victoria's grandson, who'd never been involved in any of the schemes. She would use her own inheritance to pay restitution to every person Victoria or Marcus had defrauded. She would testify against everyone who'd committed crimes, including her grandfather's estate. "And I'm walking away," she finished. "From the company. From the fortune. From all of it." The room erupted. Board members shouted. Lawyers protested. Victoria stared at Olivia with tears streaming down her paralyzed face. Daniel stood slowly. "You're giving me the company? After everything my family did to yours? I'm giving you the chance to be better than we were. To break the cycle." Olivia smiled sadly. Someone has to. The private conversation. After the meeting, Victoria asked to speak with Olivia alone. The nurse wheeled her into a private room where Eleanor already waited. For the first time in 58 years, mother and daughter were in the same room, face to face. Victoria's voice was slurred from the stroke, but understandable. Why didn't you hate me? When you found out I was your birth mother, why didn't you hate me? Eleanor took her mother's paralyzed hand. Because I understood you. You were 17 when you had me. Scared. Alone. You did what you thought you had to do. I gave you up to hurt your father. His family took my company, so I let them adopt my daughter to raise as their own. It was revenge. I know. And it ate you alive. Eleanor squeezed Victoria's hand. But I had a good life. I had a daughter who's braver than both of us. And now we have a choice. Keep hating each other, or try to heal. Olivia watched the two women, grandmother and mother, and saw herself reflected in both. The capacity for vengeance, the hunger for justice, the bone-deep need to make the pain mean something. I need to know, Olivia said to Victoria. Did you ever feel guilty? About my father? Victoria's working eye closed. Every day. Every single day. 6 months later. The legal proceedings took months. Marcus received an additional 5 years for financial crimes connected to Victoria's schemes. Sophia entered a plea deal, testified against everyone, and moved to California to start over. Detective Chen closed 17 cold cases based on Olivia's evidence. Olivia herself testified in 4 separate trials, her lawyer arguing successfully that she'd been a victim of manipulation and had committed no crimes beyond confronting her abusers. The judge agreed, calling her a rare example of someone who chose justice over vengeance. But Olivia knew the truth was more complicated. She'd spent 3 months in therapy, working through the layers of betrayal, grief, and rage. She'd learned that revenge was a hungry thing. It demanded to be fed, and it was never satisfied. She'd come so close to becoming exactly what she'd fought against. The new beginning. On a crisp October afternoon, Olivia stood outside a small community center in Brooklyn. She'd used the last of her inheritance to open it, a legal aid clinic offering free services to victims of financial fraud and domestic abuse. The sign above the door read Rivera Family Justice Center, named after her father. Her mother worked there 3 days a week, helping other women navigate the complexities of leaving dangerous situations. Daniel Reeves had become an unexpected ally, restructuring Ashford Technologies into a B corporation focused on ethical business practices. He'd even established a scholarship fund in Olivia's grandfather's name, not to honor him, but to acknowledge the harm he'd done and try to repair it. Victoria had survived the stroke, but remained partially paralyzed. She lived in a care facility Eleanor visited every Sunday, the two of them slowly building something that might eventually resemble forgiveness. The letter. The letter arrived on a Wednesday, forwarded from Olivia's old address. No return address, but she recognized the handwriting immediately. Sophia. Dear Liv, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't forgive myself. But I needed you to know that watching you choose to heal instead of destroy changed something in me. I'm in therapy now, actually dealing with my issues instead of hurting people. I testified not just for a plea deal, but because it was right. You could have ruined me completely. You had every reason to. But you gave me a chance to be better. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve it. Olivia held the letter for a long time, then carefully filed it away. Not forgiveness, not yet, but not hatred either. Something in between. Something human. The unexpected visitor. The clinic was about to close when a young woman walked in, her eyes swollen shut, carrying a small child. I heard you help people, she said, her voice shaking. My husband, he controls all the money. I can't leave. I have nowhere to go. Olivia recognized the look in her eyes. The same desperate calculation she'd seen in her own mirror the night before her wedding. The moment when you realize you have to choose, accept the life someone else has scripted for you, or fight for something better. Sit down, Olivia said gently. Let me show you what's possible. The real revenge. That night, as Olivia locked up the clinic, her phone buzzed. A news alert. Daniel Reeves, CEO of Ashford Technologies, announces major reform, company to pay reparations for historical frauds. She smiled. This was the real revenge. Not destruction, but transformation. Taking the pain that had been weaponized against her and reshaping it into something that actually helped people. Marcus would be released from prison in 7 years. Sophia was rebuilding her life in California. Victoria was learning to live with her choices. Eleanor was healing old wounds. And Olivia was discovering that the opposite of revenge wasn't forgiveness, it was freedom. 1 year later, the anniversary of the canceled wedding arrived on a Saturday. Olivia spent it hiking in the Catskills with a group from the community center, survivors who'd become friends, then chosen family. At the summit, looking out over the valley, one of the women asked, "Do you ever regret it? Not going through with the revenge all the way?" Olivia thought about the woman she'd almost become. Hard, bitter, consumed by the need to make everyone hurt as much as she'd hurt. She thought about the life she'd built instead, smaller, quieter, but infinitely more real. "I regret trusting the wrong people," she said finally. "I regret not seeing who they really were. But revenge? No. Because revenge would have meant Marcus still controlled my life. Just in a different way." She pulled out her phone and looked at a photo from that morning. Her mother and Victoria having coffee together, both laughing at something Eleanor had said. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Victoria would never fully answer for her crimes. Marcus would eventually be free. Sophia might never truly understand the depth of her betrayal. But Olivia had something better than revenge. She had herself back. The final truth. As sunset painted the mountains gold, Olivia realized the story people told about her wasn't quite right. They said she was the woman who confronted her cheating fiancé at the altar, exposed a decades-old conspiracy, and walked away from millions of dollars. But the real story was simpler and more profound. She was a woman who learned that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's refusing to become one. And as she stood on that mountain with people who'd survived their own betrayals, Olivia understood the ultimate payback wasn't about making Marcus or Sophia or Victoria suffer. It was about building a life so genuine, so full, so completely her own, that their betrayal became nothing more than a footnote in a much bigger story. The story of a woman who was broken, who could have broken others in return, but chose instead to heal. And in choosing healing over hurt, love over hate, truth over revenge, she'd won something far more valuable than any wedding could have given her. She'd won her freedom.